Hey everyone, we're going to go through some progressions that you can do on floor. You can do this on Mini-Tramp, air floor, such as this one from Tumble Track, beat boards, or with nothing at all and just on the rod floor itself or the competitive artistic floor. It's all the same thing. One reason I like to get the athletes to think about going up and not just simply landing on their feet at a flat mat that's at the same height that they're taking off is because it forces them to go up more and think I have to go over something or on top of something rather than just making it through. It tends to make it look a little bit more sloppy when they don't have to go up and think about gaining height first. And I'll play with these progressions, not necessarily always in this order, but here's a very open-ended view of all the different things you can do with your athletes, from turns to little quarter turns to rotations to just different fun stuff and what it could look like if they do it properly. Again, you may have more mats, you may have less mats, you may not be able to actually do everything the exact way you see in this video, but the same construct can be applied anywhere. You will find that with full turns, it's very tough to be able to get a pop and the rotation all at the same time. So don't get too critical with the athletes on these kind of things. We've worked with some of the best tumblers, some of the best trampolinists, and some of the best acrobats out there, and a lot of them have trouble with some of these basics. What that tells me is that it's a lot to handle, a lot to think about, and if you're not going to do them all the time, it's very easy to get unbalanced and out of the rhythm of some of these more minor movements. You will notice how these are all very simple progressions. We're not asking someone just to land on their face. We're not asking someone to just quickly jump and twist a bunch of times. We are breaking it down piece by piece because that's the way the brain works. The brain allows things to go in one piece at a time. It takes the information, compares it to the other information that it's witnessed over its experienced lifetime, and then adds to it. And if you do these drills very step by step like this, the actual coach does not have to do as much. I don't have to stand there telling them all the technical things. I need to basically give them the progressions, tell them, okay, you do this, now this, and their body will figure out mathematically what it needs to do. Like I've said before in the other GRT network videos, is that the athlete really needs to kind of play with this stuff on their own. You need to give them the structure, give them the place to play in a sense, but then they need to kind of play with it on their own. I don't want to handhold athletes and tell them, how do I make a half turn? I basically say, here, I need a half turn. Here's a safe way to do it. Now you figure it out. Athletes like that. They want a little bit of a challenge. They want to be able to figure out. If something was just hand fed to you, spoon fed to you, there wouldn't be much of a drive to really learn because you'd feel that you're not the one learning, the other person's learning. So make sure that when you are giving these drills, you're not overly protective or overly ambitious with the results. Think of it more as a fun, simple movements that all athletes need to know how to do. From a coaching perspective, I would actually be jumping with the athletes. The athletes are all lined up ready to go and there's not too many of them, then I would jump in there to play with them, have some fun, and add a little bit of pizzazz to the training. I think it's important to note that all the major skills out there that you would compete in junior and senior, from your Chenko fulls to triple backflip to flipfices, half halves, all these kind of skills, no matter what acrobatic discipline, all stem from these very minor movements. If my athletes cannot do these tricks, then I'm not going to allow them to progress. Why would I have you do a front tuck for the first time if I don't think you can do a dive roll over a block that's as high as you would need to be to do the front tuck? This is where I think sometimes athletes get a little bit ahead of themselves. They see these videos of triples and all these crazy complicated movements, but they don't realize it starts from here. So they try to throw the big trick and something's missing, but it always stems down to one of these very basic movements. And you can see how this one would be for a half turn on high bar, but you can do the same thing with a full to eagle where you land in handstand and then fold down to your back. You can always modify it depending on what exactly you're learning. You also can change the apparatus you jump off. Now we're using a Mini-Tramp. You can use beat boards, Mini-Tramps, you can use just a regular floor. It doesn't matter what you're using, and I think it's actually good to constantly change it up and make the athlete adapt to the new equipment. And you can see here we're doing Baranis, and if you've seen the Barani tutorial, you'll understand that we're actually just doing this one to feet. It doesn't really change what it is. The idea is that you're flipping first, twisting second. If you haven't seen the brain tutorial, please check it out. It is in the description. So it's very good, very step-by-step process of exactly how you're going to separate the flip and the twist. So please check that out. Whenever I'm doing drills like this, I usually have the athletes kind of play with it themselves. I'll tell them, hey, I need a bunch of brannies, or I need a bunch of 1 1/4s, tuck, pike, and straight, or straddle, or whatever it is. I'll give them some kind of group of skills to work on, and then I'll let them just play with it. If I've picked my progressions correctly and my drills correctly, then when I add that next little quarter rotation, next little quarter turn, then it won't be that hard for them to understand that, and they'll actually learn relatively quickly. Athletes sometimes try to skip these sort of drills because they just want to get to the big punch skills. But the reality is that if they can't land properly and show a tight form, such as in this 1 1/4 to hands and knees, then why would I get them to go to 1 1/4 right to stomach? It could mean that there's a little bit of weakness there, and maybe we need to condition as well. So I'm not just looking at these athletes to learn these basic movements. I'm actually looking to see what kind of discipline do they have, what kind of dexterity do they have with these kind of movements, how quick are they at learning these things, are they motivated to learn these, blah blah blah, the list goes on. But I'm doing more of a psychoanalysis on the athletes as they're doing this. And you can get completely creative. You can make the mat as high as you want, as low as you want. Sometimes you can do the same thing where the beat board or the equipment you're jumping off of is actually higher than the landing mat, just to throw them off. This makes them have to do quick calculations and learn to adjust. Anyone who does trampoline knows that trampoline is 99% about adjusting when you think it's going to go well and it really doesn't. So rec coaches, if you guys are starting off your new class, have them play with these kind of things. Kids love this sort of stuff. I did this stuff when I did recreational gymnastics, recreational coaching, and the kids just have a ball because you're able to have some fun with it. You give them a bit of a challenge, say, oh, I know you could have made that one, keep those arms in, and you're starting to think about applying some of the safety techniques. Hey, land when you're tight. Make sure you hold your breath upon landing. Arms in when you're doing a twist, just in case. Where should your eyes be? And if you're giving all these small little criticisms and corrections as they go through these very simple movements, they're more likely going to be able to actually follow through with it and think about it. So test your athletes. See if they can do all these drills. Send me a video. Thanks.